Damon Nightshade was conducting border negotiations when he heard the screams. 2 centuries of existence had taught him to distinguish between different types of screams: panic, agony, desperation. This was all 3, woven together with betrayal so profound it made his ancient blood run cold. It came from the neutral zone, from the Crimson Wastes, the forsaken territory between civilized packs, where exiles were dumped and left to die. Technically no one's concern. A place where the weak were disposed of, and everyone pretended not to notice. But something about those screams, raw, defiant, refusing to surrender, even as death closed in, made him move. He reached the edge of the wastes in minutes, his supernatural speed carrying him across terrain most wolves avoided. The wastes lived up to their name: red sand, twisted dead vegetation, so air thick with the scent of decay and desperation. He expected to find corpses. The wastes usually only screamed when someone was dying. Instead, he found a massacre in progress. 5 rogues circling a young woman who should have been dead already. She was bound with silver chains, burning her skin, preventing her shift, bleeding from dozens of wounds, barely standing, and still fighting. She had no weapons, no strength left. But she kicked, bit, clawed with human nails, screaming defiance even as the rogues laughed and closed in for the kill. Then her eyes locked with his across the wasteland, stormy grey, blazing with fury and something fiercer, and he felt a jolt of recognition so profound it stole his breath. Resonance. Impossible. Undeniable. This broken, the dying woman had power in her veins that called to his own like a song he'd forgotten he knew. Ancient bloodline meeting ancient bloodline. Which raised one very important question. Why was someone with that kind of power chained in silver and left to die in the Crimson Wastes? Damon didn't announce himself, didn't warn them, just moved. The first rogue died before he understood what was happening. Damon's claws through his chest, heart crushed, dead before hitting the ground. The second tried to run. Damon was faster. The third attempted to shift. Didn't matter. In less than 30 seconds, all 5 rogues were corpses cooling in red sand. Damon turned to the woman and found her collapsed against a dead tree, silver chains still burning her wrists and ankles, grey eyes watching him with a mixture of relief and bone-deep wariness. "And who are you?" he asked, approaching slowly. "No one," she rasped, voice wrecked from screaming. "I'm no one. Just let me die. It's easier if I just—" "Who did this?" He knelt beside her, examining the chains. Silver, inscribed with suppression runes, designed not just to bind but to torture. "Who chained you and left you here?" Her laugh was broken, bitter. "Everyone. My family. My pack. The people who were supposed to protect me." Her eyes started to close. "They sold me out. Told the rogues where to find me. Paid them to make it look like an accident, like I just wandered into the wastes and couldn't find my way back." Damon felt fury ignite in his chest, cold, ancient, absolute. "Why?" "Because I'm cursed." She smiled without humor. "Wrong. Tainted. My mother's shame. They've been trying to get rid of me for years. Finally found a way that wouldn't stain their precious reputation." He touched the chains carefully, feeling the wrongness woven into the metal. Not just silver, poison, suppression magic. Years of systematic sabotage compressed into restraints designed to kill slowly and painfully. "What's your name?" Damon asked quietly. "Sarah," she whispered. "Sarah Ashford. And you? You should go, before they realize. You interfered. Before they come for you too. Damon made a decision that would shatter 2 centuries of careful neutrality. I'm Damon Nightshade, Alpha King of the Western Territories. He began carefully removing the chains, ignoring how they burned his hands. And you're not dying today. Because if your family went through this much trouble to dispose of you quietly. He met her eyes. You must be absolutely terrifying, and I want to see what happens when you wake up angry. This is the story of a betrayal that failed, and the reckoning that didn't. If you want to see Sarah wake up angry, and trust me, you do, smash that like button right now. Because what happens when an Alpha King teaches a discarded daughter that she was never the problem? Let's find out who sold her out. Before we continue, please hit the subscribe and like button and tell me which city you're tuning in from. I love to know where this story found you. Now let's dive in. The sale. The morning had started like any other. Sarah woke in the servants' quarters, not because she was a servant, but because the family had decided years ago that the bastard daughter didn't deserve a real room. She dressed in the plain clothes they allowed her, kept her head down, and prepared for another day of being invisible. She'd gotten good at being invisible. 22 years of practice. Sarah. Her half-sister Victoria's voice cut through the morning silence, sharp and cold. Father wants to see you. His study. Now. Sarah's stomach dropped. Father, Lord Ashford, never summoned her unless something was wrong. Unless she'd embarrassed the family somehow. Unless her very existence had become inconvenient again. She followed Victoria through the manor, noting how her sister's spine was rigid with tension, how her hands clenched and unclenched, how she wouldn't meet Sarah's eyes. Something's wrong. Lord Ashford sat behind his massive desk, flanked by Sarah's stepmother, Lady Margaret, and her legitimate son, Christopher. All 3 wore expressions of grim determination. No one invited Sarah to sit. Do you know why you're here? Lord Ashford asked, voice flat. No, sir. Sarah kept her eyes down. It was safer that way. Your mother. He said it like a curse. Do you know who she was? Sarah's heart hammered. They never spoke of her mother. The subject was forbidden, dangerous. No, sir, you never told me. Because speaking of her brought shame on this house. Lady Margaret's voice dripped venom. But secrets have a way of surfacing. And now, she smiled coldly. Now the truth has become problematic. I don't understand. Your mother was Moonsinger bloodline, Christopher interrupted. Ancient, powerful, supposedly extinct. And you. He gestured dismissively. You carry that blood, dormant, thank the gods, but present. And certain parties have become interested in acquiring someone with your lineage. Ice flooded Sarah's veins. Acquiring? The Eclipse Syndicate has made an offer, Lord Ashford said calmly. A substantial one. In exchange for access to you, for their research purposes. You're selling me, Sarah's voice cracked. We're solving a problem, Lady Margaret corrected. You've been a burden on this family for 22 years. An embarrassment. A reminder of your father's indiscretion. This arrangement eliminates that burden while providing resources we need. You can't. Sarah backed toward the door. I'm your daughter. Your blood. You're a mistake. Lord Ashford's composure cracked. A curse that's haunted me for decades. Your mother trapped me with some Moonsinger trick, got herself pregnant, and then had the audacity to die before I could force her to undo it. He stood, trembling with rage. I've fed you, housed you, tolerated your existence out of obligation, but I owe you nothing more. and the syndicate's offer is generous. The syndicate experiments on people, Sarah whispered. They torture bloodlines to extract power. They'll kill me. Eventually. Victoria spoke for the first time, voice hollow. But you'll serve a purpose. Finally. Instead of just existing. Sarah looked at each of them, the family she'd spent 22 years trying to please, trying to earn love from, trying to be worthy of, and saw nothing but cold calculation. No love, no regret. Just relief that the problem was finally being eliminated. Please, she heard herself beg, don't do this. I'll leave. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Just don't. Too late. Christopher nodded to someone behind Sarah. The transaction is already complete. Hands grabbed her from behind. Rough, professional. She screamed, fought, tried to shift. Pain exploded through her system as silver chains wrapped around her wrists, suppressant-laced, burning, agonizing. No, no, Father, please. Lord Ashford turned away, unable to watch, or unwilling. Sarah would never know which. Lady Margaret smiled. Victoria stared at the floor, and Christopher counted the syndicate's payment with satisfaction. They dragged Sarah through the servants' entrance, couldn't risk the scandal of witnesses, and threw her into a transport carriage. The syndicate operatives were efficient, cold. They'd done this before. Please, Sarah whispered to the operative chaining her ankles. Please let me go. I won't tell anyone. I'll just disappear. Please. He didn't even look at her, just tightened the chains until she screamed. The carriage rolled toward the Crimson Wastes, toward the syndicate's hidden facility, toward a fate worse than death. But halfway there, the operative received new orders. His expression shifted from professional to predatory. Change of plans, he told his companion. The Ashfords paid extra. They want it to look like an accident, like she wandered into the wastes and got taken by rogues. No connection to them, no scandal. So we just dump her. We arrange for rogues to find her. Let them have their fun. Natural causes. His smile was cruel. No one survives the Crimson Wastes anyway. Problem solved. They dumped her at the waste's edge, chains intact, already bleeding from the silver burns. Then they sent word to the rogue packs that fresh prey was waiting. And they left her there. Alone. Betrayed. Sold out by the people who were supposed to protect her. Sarah tried to break the chains, failed, tried to shift. The suppressants made it impossible. Tried to crawl toward civilization, didn't have the strength. So she did the only thing left. She screamed, defiance and fury and absolute refusal to die quietly. And somewhere in the distance, ancient amber eyes heard her, and decided that neutrality could wait. Justice could not. The pain was infinite. Sarah drifted in and out of consciousness, dimly aware of movement, of being carried, of a voice, deep, commanding, impossibly gentle, telling her she was safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign, meaningless. When she finally surfaced fully, she found herself in a cave. Not crude or primitive. Furnished with furs, a crackling fire. Supplies that spoke of someone who used this place regularly as sanctuary. Every inch of her body screamed in agony. Don't move. That same deep voice. The silver did extensive damage. Your wrists and ankles are burned down to bone in places. I'm doing what I can, but the suppressants in those chains were designed to prevent healing. It's going to take time. Sarah turned her head carefully and found him sitting beside her makeshift bed. He was devastating. Shoulder-length dark hair, chiseled features that looked carved from shadow and starlight, eyes that glowed faint amber in the firelight. Raw power radiated from him like heat from the sun. This was an alpha, not like the petty pack leaders she'd known. This was something ancient, primal, absolute. "You saved me," she whispered. "I delayed your death," he corrected quietly. "There's a difference. You're still in critical condition. The silver poisoning alone should have killed you hours ago." He leaned forward, studying her with intensity that should have frightened her. "But something in your system is fighting it. Something old. Moonsinger blood." Sarah closed her eyes. "That's what they said. Why they sold me." "Moonsinger." Damon's voice went very quiet. That bloodline was supposedly extinct, wiped out 2 centuries ago during the Purge." "Not extinct, just hidden." Sarah's laugh was bitter. "My mother was the last. She hid what she was. Until my father." Her voice broke. "Until he took advantage of her, got her pregnant. She died when I was born. And he spent 22 years resenting my existence. So he sold you to the Eclipse Syndicate. He sold me to make me disappear without the scandal of outright murder." Tears leaked from Sarah's eyes. "My whole life, I thought. I thought if I was good enough, quiet enough, useful enough, they'd love me. They'd accept me. They'd see me as family." She looked at him. "But I was never family. I was just a problem waiting to be solved." Silence fell between them, broken only by crackling fire. "What is Moonsinger blood?" Sarah asked finally. "Why does it matter? I can't even shift properly. I have no power. I'm worthless." "You're suppressed." Damon's voice was firm. "There's a difference. Those chains weren't just silver. They were designed to keep you weak, dormant, manageable." He held up his hands, showing burns that were already healing. "The suppressants are breaking down now that the chains are off. And when they do..." His amber eyes met hers. "You're going to be far from worthless. I don't understand." Moonsinger blood is one of the original bloodlines. Before packs, before territories, before politics corrupted everything. Damon's voice held something like reverence. Moonsingers could command the night itself, could heal with a touch, could see truth through any lie. They were balance, conscience, the thing that kept powerful alphas from becoming tyrants. That's why the Syndicate wanted me. Horror crept into Sarah's voice. They want to extract that power, study it, weaponize it. Yes. Damon's jaw clenched. And your family knew exactly what they were condemning you to. They didn't just abandon you. They sold you to people who would torture you until they'd extracted every drop of power from your blood. Why did you save me? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. You don't know me. I'm nobody. Why risk? Because when I touched you, I felt something I haven't felt in 200 years. Damon's voice was raw, honest, recognition, resonance, the kind that says our bloodlines were meant to find each other. He paused. And because I'm tired of watching ancient bloodlines get destroyed by people too afraid to understand them. Sarah stared at him, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to be what you're saying I am. I know. Damon's voice gentled. But you're going to learn. And when you do, when the suppressants fully break down, and you remember what you were always meant to be. His smile was sharp and dangerous. We're going to make your family understand exactly what they threw away. They won't care. They never cared. They will. Damon's certainty was absolute. When you're standing before them as Moonsinger awakened, when they realize what they sold for profit, when they see that their worthless daughter is worth more than their entire bloodline combined. He touched her hand briefly. They'll care, and it will destroy them. Sarah wanted to believe him, wanted to imagine being powerful instead of powerless, wanted instead of discarded, worthy. "What if I can't do it?" she whispered. "What if I'm really just broken?" "Then you'll be broken on your terms, not theirs." Damon's voice was fierce. "But I don't think you're broken, Sarah. I think you're a weapon they were too stupid to recognize. And I'm going to teach you how to aim yourself at everyone who hurt you." Outside, the crimson wastes howled with wind and death. Inside, something far more dangerous began to wake. The girl they'd sold for silence was starting to remember she had a voice, and soon she'd learn to make it roar. Damon watched Sarah sleep and questioned every decision that had led him here. 200 years of careful neutrality. 200 years of staying out of pack politics, of letting families govern themselves, of refusing to intervene in matters that didn't directly threaten his territory. And he'd just thrown all of it away for a girl he'd known for less than 12 hours. "Because she's not just any girl," the wolf inside him growled. "She's ours." No. He refused to acknowledge that pull. Mate bonds didn't manifest this quickly, this intensely. They required time, choice, careful consideration. Sarah whimpered in her sleep, pain etched across her delicate features even in unconsciousness. Damon found himself moving before conscious thought, checking her bandages, adjusting the furs, placing a cool cloth on her fevered forehead. His hands, built for violence, stained with centuries of necessary kills, moved with impossible gentleness. "What are you doing to me?" he murmured to her sleeping form. She didn't answer, couldn't answer, but he felt it anyway. That resonance, that wrongness in her system that his wolf recognized as an abomination that needed to be destroyed. 22 years of suppression. 22 years of being told she was worthless, broken, a burden, and then sold like livestock when her existence became inconvenient. That it made him furious in ways he hadn't felt since Elena. The name still brought pain after a century and a half. His first mate. The woman he'd loved with everything he had. The woman a rival pack had murdered to punish him for interfering in their internal affairs. He'd sworn then. Never again. Never let anyone close enough to be used against him. Never intervene in family matters. Never give them that kind of leverage. And here he was, sitting beside a broken girl who made his wolf howl with recognition, breaking every vow he'd made to protect himself. "You're an idiot," he told himself quietly. "Talking to yourself is the first sign of madness." Damon's head snapped up. Sarah's eyes were open, barely, but open, watching him with exhausted amusement. "You should be sleeping," he said gruffly. "Hurts too much. Asked to sleep." She tried to shift position and gasped. "Everything hurts." "I know." Damon helped her carefully, propping her up slightly. "The suppressants are breaking down faster than I anticipated. Your body is trying to remember what it should be, but it's fighting 22 years of enforced dormancy. The process is painful." "How much worse?" "Honestly, I don't know." He met her eyes. "Moonsinger awakening after this long suppressed. There's no precedent I know of. You're in uncharted territory. Lucky me." Sarah's attempted smile turned into a wince. "Why are you doing this? You could have left me. Let the wastes take me. Saved yourself." "The trouble." Damon considered his answer carefully. He could lie. could tell her it was duty or curiosity or simple mercy. Instead, he told her the truth. Because when I found you, I felt something I haven't felt in a century and a half. Recognition, the kind that doesn't lie. He held her gaze. You're not just Moonsinger blood, Sarah. You're pure lineage, undiluted. And when you awaken, if you survive the awakening, you'll be one of the most powerful beings in the territories. I don't understand. Your family didn't just suppress you out of shame. They suppressed you because if you ever awakened, you'd be unstoppable. Moonsinger authority supersedes pack hierarchy. You could challenge any alpha, override any family law. You'd be a threat, Sarah finished hollowly. A queen, Damon corrected firmly. The Eclipse Syndicate knew it. Your family knew it. That's why they were so desperate to eliminate you before you figured it out. And now, oh, you know. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. What's stopping you from finishing what they started? This. Damon took her hand carefully, and the resonance flared between them. Ancient power, recognizing ancient power. I'm first-generation bloodline, one of the originals, and I'm done watching our kind get destroyed, because lesser wolves are afraid of what we represent. Sarah stared at him, tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know how to be what you're saying. I am. I know. Damon squeezed her hand gently. But you're going to learn. And when you do, when you finally wake up and remember your worth. His smile was sharp and dangerous. We're going to show your family exactly what happens when you discard a Moonsinger. Promise? Promise. 5 days later, Sarah's fever broke. And when her eyes opened, they weren't just gray anymore. They glowed, soft silver, ancient, awake. The suppression was shattering, and something magnificent was clawing its way to the surface. Damon felt the power surge and smiled. Let them come, he thought. Let them see what they sold. The transformation took 9 days. 9 days of fever and agony and power, trying to tear free from a prison that had held it for 22 years. Sarah convulsed. She bled from her eyes and nose. She screamed in languages Damon hadn't heard in centuries, ancient Moonsinger dialects that predated written history. And through it all, he stayed. He held her when the pain became unbearable, fed her his blood when her body tried to shut down, whispered words in the old tongue, the language spoken before territories, before packs, before everything became corrupted by politics and fear. I've got you, he murmured during the worst of it, when silver light exploded from her skin in waves that cracked the cave walls. I've got you. Don't fight it. Let it burn through. Let it remember. On the 9th day, Sarah opened her eyes. The fever was gone. The pain had faded to a dull throb, and for the first time in her life, she felt complete. How do you feel? Damon asked, watching her carefully. Different. Sarah sat up slowly, marveling at how her body obeyed without protest. No weakness, no pain, just smooth, powerful movement. I feel like I could run forever, like I could. She stopped, staring at her hands. They were glowing, soft silver light pulsing beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. What's happening to me? Your blood is waking up. Damon moved closer. The suppression is completely broken now. Soon, you'll be able to do things you never imagined possible. Shift. Really shift. Command truth. Heal wounds that should be fatal. See through deception. I'm afraid. The admission came out quiet. What if I can't control it? What if they were right about me being dangerous? Then I'll teach you control. Damon's voice was firm. But first, You need to understand what you are, what they stole from you. He gestured toward the cave entrance. Come, there's something you need to see. He led her to a clearing deep in his territory. Dawn light filtered through ancient trees, painting everything in shades of gold and rose. The air felt different here, charged like the moment before thunder. This is sacred ground, Damon explained, where the original bloodlines used to gather before the purge. Before families decided that ancient power was too dangerous to exist, the earth here remembers. And it will answer to you now. Answer to me? Sarah looked at him uncertainly. I don't understand. Moonsinger blood doesn't just give you strength or healing or enhanced senses. Damon's eyes met hers. It gives you authority, the ability to command truth itself, to make others see reality instead of the lies they tell themselves. Watch. He closed his eyes and breathed deep. The air around him hummed. Trees seemed to lean toward him slightly. Even the morning mist appeared to still in recognition. When Damon opened his eyes, they glowed pure amber. The earth recognizes its king. Now, he stepped back. Let's see if it recognizes its moonsinger. I can't. You can. His voice was absolute. Stop thinking like the broken girl they made you believe you were. Start thinking like what you've always been. Close your eyes, feel the truth of this place, and command it to show itself. Sarah closed her eyes, heart hammering. This would fail. Everything always failed. She was worthless, broken, a burden. No. The word came from somewhere deep inside, somewhere that had been buried under 22 years of lies, but was finally breaking free. I am not worthless. I am not broken. I am Moonsinger. She reached out, not with her hands, but with something deeper, with the power that had been locked away, now finally unleashed. Show me truth, she commanded. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Light exploded around her, pure silver, blinding, absolute. The clearing transformed before her eyes. She could see the truth of it now. The lives that had been lived here, the blood that had been spilled, the ancient moonsingers who'd stood exactly where she stood, commanding truth and balance and justice. She could see the truth of everything. The trees weren't just trees, they were witnesses. The earth wasn't just soil, it was memory. And running beneath it all, connecting everything, was a silver thread of power that sang to her blood like a song she'd always known, but forgotten. She opened her eyes and gasped. Everything glowed, the forest, the earth, the air itself, like she was seeing the world's true form for the first time, stripped of all deception and pretense. And at the center of it all stood Damon, glowing amber gold, watching her with something like awe. Moonsinger, he breathed, pure, awakened, magnificent. Sarah looked down at her hands, at the silver light dancing across her skin, and felt tears stream down her face. I'm not broken, she whispered. No. Damon moved toward her, and where their powers met, the air crackled with resonance. You never were. They just convinced you that truth was a lie, that power was weakness, that being extraordinary made you wrong. He took her hands, and the combined power made the earth beneath them hum. But now you're free, and they're going to learn what it cost to throw away a moonsinger. I don't know how. I'll teach you. His grip tightened. Everything. How to command truth. How to see through lies. How to make everyone who hurt you face what they've done without the comfort of self-deception. His smile was sharp. How to be the reckoning they should have feared. Why? Sarah searched his eyes. Why do all this for me? Damon's answer was simple and devastating. Because you're mine, my bloodline, my equal, my... He stopped, jaw clenching, as if fighting against words that wanted to break free. My responsibility, and I protect what's mine. The word he didn't say hung between them like lightning waiting to strike. Mate? But neither of them was ready to speak it aloud. Not yet. That afternoon, Sarah shifted for the first time. Not the broken, painful half-shift she'd managed before. A full transformation. Smooth, powerful. Right. Her wolf was silver-white. Smaller than Damon's massive form, but radiating power that made even him pause. Eyes that glowed like moonlight. A presence that commanded truth, forcing everything around her to show its real nature. When she threw her head back and howled, the every creature within 50 miles felt it. Felt the declaration. Moonsinger had awakened, and the territories would never be the same. News of Sarah's survival reached the Ashford estate within 3 days. Lord Ashford dropped the contract he was reviewing when the messenger delivered the report. The parchment fluttered to his desk, forgotten, as blood drained from his face. "What did you say?" His voice came out strangled. "She's alive, my lord." The scout kept his eyes lowered, terrified of being the bearer of such news. Spotted in the Western Territory, with Alpha King Damon Nightshade, training, growing stronger. The witnesses say she shifted, a full shift, silver-white. They say, he swallowed hard. They say her eyes glow, that she radiates Moonsinger power. Impossible. Lady Margaret moved to her husband's side, face pale. The syndicate was supposed to. The rogues were supposed to. She can't have survived the wastes. The Alpha King found her, the scout continued, voice shaking. Killed the rogues. Removed the suppression chains. He's protecting her. Teaching her. The border patrols say the resonance between them is unmistakable. Ancient bloodline calling to ancient bloodline. Victoria, standing by the window, made a small sound of distress. Christopher's hands clenched into fists. "How much does she know?" Lord Ashford asked quietly, dangerously. "Everything, my lord. She knows you sold her. Knows the syndicate was meant to eliminate her. Knows..." The scout's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Knows you paid extra for it to look like an accident." Silence crashed over the room like a physical weight. "She'll come for revenge," Christopher said finally. "She'll come for all of us." "Don't be dramatic." Lady Margaret's voice was sharp, but her hands trembled. "She's one girl. Awakened or not, she's still..." A howl split the evening air. Everyone in the room froze. It came from the west, from the border they shared with Damon's territory, and it carried a message older than words, written in Moonsinger authority and barely restrained fury. "I survived. I remember. I'm coming." "Sweet mercy," the scout breathed. "That's her. That's the Moonsinger howl. She's announcing her intent, ancient law. She's claiming the right to..." "To what?" Lord Ashford's voice cracked. "To face you, to demand truth, to make you acknowledge what you did without the protection of lies or excuses." The scout looked up, face ashen. "Moonsinger authority compels truth, my lord. When she comes, you won't be able to lie. Not to her, not to yourselves. You'll have to face exactly what you did. What you are." Victoria made a sound like a wounded animal. "Father, we have to run. We have to..." "Run where?" Christopher's laugh was bitter. "She has the Alpha King backing her claim. Do you understand what that means? The most powerful Alpha in the Western Territories is supporting a Moonsinger's demand for justice. Every pack within 500 miles will honor that claim. There's nowhere to run. Then we fight, Lady Margaret said desperately. We gather our allies. We tell them she's dangerous, unstable, exactly what everyone fears about ancient bloodlines. They already know she's dangerous, a new voice interrupted. Everyone turned to find Elder Thorn standing in the doorway, the ancient wolf who advised the regional packs, who remembered the time before the purge, who carried knowledge most had forgotten. She's Moon Singer awakened, Thorn continued, entering slowly. Pure bloodline. And she's bonded, or bonding, with first-generation Alpha. Together, they represent the balance we lost 2 centuries ago, the thing that kept families from becoming tyrannical, the conscience we destroyed because we were afraid of accountability. You can't be suggesting we just surrender to her, Lord Ashford said, voice hollow. I'm suggesting you prepare to face truth. Thorn's eyes were hard. Something you should have done 22 years ago instead of suppressing a child, instead of selling her to torturers, instead of trying to murder her to hide your crimes. You were protecting your pride, Thorn interrupted. Your reputation, your comfortable lies. And now, those lies are coming home. He looked at each family member in turn. Moonsinger authority strips away deception. When Sarah Ashford stands before you, you will speak only truth. You will face what you've done without the comfort of justification or excuse. And you will accept whatever judgment she passes. She'll kill us, Victoria whispered. Perhaps. Thorn's voice was neutral. Or perhaps she'll show you the mercy you never showed her. Either way, you've earned what's coming. He turned to leave, then paused. The Alpha King sent a message. Sarah will arrive in 7 days. You have until then to prepare your confessions, or prepare your graves. The choice is yours. He left. The family stood in stunned silence. 7 days, Lady Margaret breathed. What do we do? Christopher asked. Lord Ashford looked at his hands, the hands that had signed Sarah's death warrant, that had accepted the syndicate's payment, that had condemned his own daughter to torture and death. We pray, he said hollowly. We pray that the girl we tried to kill has more mercy than we do. Because if she doesn't, his voice broke. If she doesn't, we deserve everything she's going to do to us. In the Western Territory, Sarah stood beside Damon, watching ceremonial fires burn at the border, marking her intent, declaring her claim under ancient law. They know you're coming, Damon said quietly. Good. Sarah's voice was steady now, strong. Let them be afraid. Let them feel what I felt every day for 22 years. Powerless, trapped, terrified. What will you do when you face them? Damon asked. Your father, your family, the people who sold you. Sarah turned to him, gray eyes glowing silver in the firelight. I'm going to make them speak truth. Every lie they told themselves to justify what they did. Every excuse, every rationalization. I'm going to strip it all away and make them face exactly what they are. And then, her smile was cold and precise. Then I'm going to let them live with it, because death would be mercy, and they taught me that mercy is for people who deserve it. Damon's answering smile matched hers. That's my Moonsinger. The words slipped out naturally, possessive, true. She was his, he was hers. Mate bond or not, the resonance had already decided. Now they just had to make everyone else understand. The march on Ashford Estate would begin in 7 days. And truth, brutal, unforgiving, absolute, was coming with them. They arrived at dawn on the 7th day. Not with an army, not with threats. Just two wolves walking side by side through the Ashford estate gates with the kind of confidence that came from absolute authority. Damon in his massive amber gold form, ancient, powerful, radiating dominance that made lesser wolves instinctively submit. And Serah in her silver-white form, smaller but no less commanding, eyes glowing with moonsinger power that stripped away every comfortable lie within 100 yards. They shifted to human form at the manor's entrance, both dressed simply, both unarmed. They didn't need weapons. Inside, the Ashford family had gathered. Lord Ashford, Lady Margaret, and Victoria and Christopher stood in the great hall, flanked by their remaining loyal guards. All of them radiated tension, fear, and underneath it, crushing guilt they'd spent weeks trying to suppress. Sarah's presence made suppression impossible. The moment she crossed the threshold, Moonsinger authority flooded the room like water breaking through a dam. Every person present felt it, the absolute compulsion to speak only truth, to face reality without the comfort of self-deception. Several guards dropped to their knees immediately, unable to bear the weight of their own consciences. "Sarah," Lord Ashford's voice shook. He tried to maintain dignity, failed. "You survived. We're pleased to see." "Don't." Sarah's voice was quiet, but carried absolute authority. "Don't lie. Not anymore. You can't. Not to me. Not in my presence. Moonsinger authority compels truth, so speak it, all of it." Lord Ashford's mouth opened, closed. The words he'd prepared, excuses, justifications, careful political language, died in his throat. What came out instead was raw, horrible truth. "We sold you to the Eclipse Syndicate," he said, voice hollow. "We accepted 50,000 in gold to hand you over to people who would torture you to death extracting your bloodline. And when they offered to make it look like an accident, to spare us the scandal, we paid extra." Tears streamed down his face against his will. "We condemned our own daughter to agony and death to protect our reputation, and we felt relieved when you were gone." Lady Margaret made a sound of pure anguish. The truth compulsion was working on her too, stripping away every careful justification she'd built. "I hated you," she whispered, the words dragging themselves out. "From the moment you were born. You were proof of my husband's infidelity, a constant reminder that he'd loved someone else, someone more powerful than me. I wanted you erased, wanted you to never have existed. And when the opportunity came..." Her voice broke. "I encouraged it. I pushed for it. I told myself it was necessary. But the truth is, I just wanted you gone." Victoria collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "I was jealous. So jealous. Father always looked at you with guilt, which meant he thought about you, noticed you, and I..." She choked on the words. "I wanted to be the only daughter, the one who mattered. So I helped. I suggested the wastes. I told them the rogues would make it look natural. And I felt glad when they dragged you away screaming." Christopher's face was ashen. "I knew what they'd do to you. At the syndicate facility, I'd heard the stories. Torture, vivisection, extraction. And I didn't care. You were worth 50,000 gold. That's all you were to me. Profit. A problem turned into an asset." Sarah listened to each confession with silver eyes that showed no mercy, no forgiveness. Just absolute, unflinching truth reflected back at them. 22 years, she said quietly. 22 years of suppression, of being told I was worthless, of trying to earn love from people who saw me as a burden to be eliminated." She took a step forward. "Did you ever love me? Any of you? Even once?" Silence. Crushing. Damning. "No." Lord Ashford finally said, the truth ripping out of him. I looked at you and saw your mother. Son saw the moon singer who trapped me. Saw the mistake that haunted me. I never... His voice broke. I never loved you. I only tolerated you out of obligation. And when that obligation became too expensive, I sold you. Like livestock. Sarah felt something crack in her chest. Not surprise. She'd always known. But hearing it, hearing the absolute truth without any protective lies, still hurt. Damon's hand found hers, steady and warm, anchoring her. You want to know what I am? Sarah asked, voice growing stronger. What your worthless burden became. She let the moon singer power flare, silver light blazing through the room. I'm awakened. Pure bloodline. One of the most powerful beings in the territories. The syndicate would have killed hundreds to capture what I carry. And you sold it for 50,000 gold. Lord Ashford's legs gave out. He collapsed into a chair, the magnitude of what they'd thrown away finally sinking in. What are you going to do to us? Christopher asked, voice small, terrified. Sarah studied them, her family, broken and exposed, every lie stripped away, facing exactly what they were without the comfort of justification. I'm going to give you what you never gave me, she said finally. Truth and choice. What does that mean? It means I could kill you. Under ancient law, I have that right. You sold me, tried to murder me, condemned me to torture. Sarah's voice was ice. But death would be mercy, a quick end to your guilt, and I'm not feeling merciful. She gestured and silver light wove through the room, settling over each family member like chains made of moonlight. This is Moonsinger binding, she explained. You will never lie again. Not to others, not to yourselves. Every time you try, the truth will force itself out. Every time you look in a mirror, you'll see what you really are. Every time you try to justify or excuse or forget, you'll remember, perfectly, completely, forever. Horror dawned on their faces. You're condemning us to live with the truth, Lady Margaret whispered. Yes. Sarah's smile was cold. You'll face what you did every single day for the rest of your lives. No comfortable lies, no protective delusions, just truth, absolute, inescapable, eternal. Please, Victoria begged, please just kill us. This is justice, Damon's voice cut through like a blade. This is what happens when you try to destroy a moonsinger. You get exactly what you deserve, not death, not mercy, just truth you can never escape. Sarah turned to her father one last time. You're also stripped of your titles, your lands, your position. The Ashford name is forfeit. You'll live as commoners in the territories, bearing the mark of what you are. And everyone who meets you will know your crimes. The binding makes sure of that. You're destroying us, Lord Ashford said hollowly. No. Sarah's voice was absolute. I'm letting you live, which is more mercy than you showed me. Be grateful I'm better than you taught me to be. She turned away, Damon beside her, and walked out of the manor without looking back. Behind them, the Ashford family collapsed under the weight of truth they could never escape. Outside, Sarah finally let herself breathe. Let the tears fall. How do you feel? Damon asked quietly. Empty. I thought justice would feel better. It never does. He pulled her close. But it was necessary, and it was right. They'll suffer now, every day, forever. Yes. Damon's voice was firm. And they earned it. Never doubt that. Sarah looked back at the estate, her prison for 22 years, now a tomb for the family that had tried to bury her. She felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just closure. What happens now? she whispered. Damon's answer was simple. Now you become what they always feared, not their victim, not their burden, not their shame, just yourself, powerful, free, unchained. Sarah leaned into him, feeling the mate bond pulse between them, not yet complete, but growing stronger every day. Together? She asked. Always. Word spread like wildfire. The moon singer who'd been thrown away had returned, had faced her family, had bound them in truth they could never escape. Within a week, the every pack in the Western Territories knew the story. Some called her merciful for sparing their lives. Others called her cruel for condemning them to eternal conscience. But those who'd actually seen her, who'd felt the weight of her moonsinger authority, the silver glow of her eyes, the absolute certainty in her voice, they knew the truth. She wasn't merciful or cruel, she was just, and justice didn't care about comfort. Sarah stood in Damon's study, surrounded by territorial reports and requests for audience, and felt overwhelmed by the weight of it all. 12 packs requesting meetings, she said, sorting through correspondence. 6 asking for moonsinger arbitration in disputes. 3 wanting to verify I'm real. She looked up at Damon with exhausted confusion. I don't know how to be what they need me to be. Then don't be what they need. Damon moved behind her, hands settling on her shoulders. Be what you are. Be yourself. Everything else will follow. And what if myself isn't enough? The fear she'd been holding back finally broke free. What if I'm still just that discarded daughter pretending to be powerful? What if the authority fades and I go back to being... Stop! Damon turned her chair, forcing her to face him. The power isn't something external that can be taken away. It's you. It always has been. They just convinced you it wasn't. His hands framed her face. You survived 22 years of suppression. You survived being sold and chained and left to die. You survived an awakening that should have killed you. You faced the family that betrayed you and showed them mercy they didn't deserve. His amber eyes bored into hers. You are not pretending anything. You are exactly as strong as you appear. And anyone who says otherwise is lying. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. I'm scared of failing, of becoming something I don't recognize, of losing myself to this power. Then we'll face that together. Damon's thumb wiped away her tears. You're not alone anymore, Sarah. You never have to be alone again. That's what this... He stopped, jaw clenching, fighting against words that had been building for weeks. What this what? Sarah whispered. What this bond means. The word came out rough, raw. What we've been dancing around since the moment I pulled you from the wastes. What we both feel, but haven't named. Sarah's heart hammered. The mate bond. Yes. Damon's voice was barely above a whisper. I feel it every moment. Your emotions, your fears, your strength. It's incomplete because I haven't asked, haven't given you the choice. His hands tightened slightly. I want to complete it, want you fully, permanently, not just as my equal or my responsibility, but as my mate. Sarah finished the word. He couldn't quite say. You want me as your mate. I want... Damon closed his eyes, fighting for control. I want you to choose it. Not because you're grateful I saved you. Not because you think you owe me. But because you want it. Want me. Want this partnership to be permanent and binding and... Sarah kissed him. Soft at first. Tentative. Then deeper as his arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and the resonance between them exploded. Power crashed through both of them. Amber gold meeting silver white, ancient calling to ancient first generation and moonsinger, finally acknowledging what they'd both known from the start. Mates, not just compatible, not just attracted, meant, written in their very blood, inevitable as sunrise. When they finally broke apart, both glowing with residual power, Sarah smiled, a real smile, full and genuine and free. "Yes," she said simply. "I choose you. I choose this. I choose—" Her voice caught with emotion. "I choose to stop being afraid and start being whole." Damon's answering smile was devastating. "Then let's make it permanent." The mating ceremony was performed by Elderthorn under the full moon. Simple, sacred. Just them and the ancient wolf who remembered the old ways, the first-generation traditions. He bound their hands with silver cord that glowed in response to their power, drew symbols on their skin in ash and moon water, spoke words in the language of the first packs that made the earth itself hum in recognition. And when he pressed their palms together, when their blood mixed and the bond snapped fully into place, the entire forest lit up with silver and gold light. Every wolf within 200 miles felt it, felt the declaration. First generation has bonded with Moonsinger. The old balance is returning. The ancient powers are waking. Sarah gasped as the bond settled into place, permanent and unbreakable. She could feel everything now. Damon's emotions, his thoughts, his absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. And underneath it all, something she'd never felt in her life. Home. Not a place. A person. Like someone who saw her completely. Every flaw, every fear, every broken piece. And chose her anyway. "How do you feel?" Damon asked, thumb stroking over her racing pulse. "Complete," Sarah whispered. "Like I've been missing half of myself my whole life, and didn't know it until now." "I know the feeling." He pulled her close, and they stood together in the moonlight, wrapped in combined power and newfound certainty. "We're going to face challenges. The Eclipse Syndicate won't forget what you carry. Other families will question us. There will be those who still fear ancient bloodlines, who believe the old lies. Let them come." Sarah's voice was steady now, strong. "I'm done being afraid, done hiding, done letting others define who I am." She looked up at him, eyes glowing silver with determination. "I'm Moonsinger. I'm your mate. I'm free, and anyone who has a problem with that can face both of us." Damon's laugh was pure joy. "That's my mate." They stood together as dawn broke, First Generation and Moonsinger, bonded and powerful, and absolutely done with being diminished. But in distant shadows, others watched, calculated, feared. The Eclipse Syndicate had invested too much in acquiring Moonsinger blood, had planned too carefully, had resources they hadn't yet deployed. "She escaped once," the director said, watching reports of the bonding ceremony. "With the Alpha King's protection. That complicates things." "So we adapt," his second replied coldly. "We waited centuries for pure Moonsinger to resurface. We can wait a bit longer, study her patterns, find her weaknesses." He smiled without warmth. "Everyone has something they can't bear to lose. Even Moonsingers, even Alpha Kings. And when we find it, then we take it, and she'll come to us willingly rather than watch it suffer." The trap was being prepared, and Sarah and Damon, wrapped in their newfound happiness, had no idea the storm gathering on the horizon. The attacks started small. A scout missing from the western border. Then two. Then an entire patrol. Vanished without trace, without struggle, without even time to send warning. "Eclipse Syndicate," Damon said, studying the map with cold fury. They're probing our defenses, testing response times, mapping patrol patterns. They're coming for me, Sarah said quietly. She stood at the window, watching dawn break over territory she'd come to think of as home. They invested too much to just let me go. They'll have to go through me first. Damon moved behind her, arms wrapping around her waist protectively. And I don't die easily. That's what terrifies me. Sarah turned in his arms, silver eyes haunted. Not that they'll kill you, that they'll use you against me, that they'll hurt you to make me surrender, that I'll have to choose between your life and my freedom. Then we make sure it never comes to that. Damon's voice was absolute. We fortify, we prepare, An explosion rocked the compound. They were moving before conscious thought, racing toward the source. The eastern gate was in flames, not normal fire, but chemical fire that burned silver white and made wolves scream when they got too close. Eclipse Syndicate signature, designed specifically to incapacitate shifters while leaving their facility intact. It's a diversion, Sarah said, Moonsinger authority letting her see the truth beneath the chaos. The real attack is the archives, Damon finished, already running. They're after the bloodline records, the research on Moonsinger abilities, everything we know about. They burst into the archive building to find it already burning. And standing in the center of the flames, protected by some kind of heat-resistant suit, was a syndicate operative holding a single book, the Moonsinger Codex. The only complete record of Moonsinger abilities, weaknesses, and, most dangerously, how to extract their power without killing them. Hello, Sarah. The operative's voice was female, cultured, almost kind. I was hoping you'd come. Makes this so much easier. Damon shifted partially, claws extending. Put down the book. Or what? You'll kill me? She laughed. Go ahead. The book burns with me. And you lose the only record of how to help her control what she's becoming. How to prevent Moonsinger awakening from consuming her completely. How to keep her from burning herself out in 5 years like the last one did. Sarah felt ice in her veins. You're lying. Am I? The operative tilted her head. Why do you think Moonsingers went extinct? Why do you think the bloodline died out? It wasn't just the purge, sweetheart. It was because awakened Moonsingers burned too bright, used too much power, and without proper training, without the knowledge in this book, they consumed themselves from the inside. Usually, within a decade. Give us the book, Damon said, voice deadly quiet, and I'll let you walk out of here alive. Or... The operative's smile was cold. You let me take Sarah for just 6 months, long enough to properly study her bloodline, to extract samples that might help us cure the consumption, to give her the training she needs to survive. And in exchange, I give you the book. I give you the research. I give you a chance for her to live longer than 5 more years. No, Sarah and Damon said simultaneously. Then she dies young. The operative shrugged. Burns out like a star going nova. Beautiful, powerful, brief. Your choice. She began backing toward a window. You have 48 hours to decide. After that, the book burns, and she burns with it. Slowly, painfully. Watching her own power destroy her piece by piece. She jumped. Damon lunged after her, but the operative had backup. 3 more syndicate agents providing cover fire with those chemical weapons that made shifters recoil in agony. By the time they reached the window, she was gone, and the archives were ashes. She was lying, Damon said later, as healers treated the wounded. The syndicate lies. It's what they do. Manipulate, create fear, make you doubt. What if she wasn't? Sarah's voice was small. What if awakening really does consume us? What if I only have a few years before this power burns me out? Then we find another way. Damon pulled her close, fierce and desperate. We research, we experiment, we figure it out together, but we don't give you to them. Never. I won't lose you like that. Even if staying with you kills me faster. Even then. His voice broke, because 6 months in their hands would destroy you anyway, break you, turn you into something you're not. And I'd rather have 5 years with you whole than 50 years with what they'd make you become. Sarah buried her face in his chest, feeling the mate bond pulse with his absolute certainty and her own spiraling fear. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. Damon held her tighter, but we'll face it together, like everything else. No surrenders, no sacrifices, just us, fighting for every day we get. But that night, while Damon slept, Sarah stood at the window and made a decision. If she really was consuming herself, if her power really would burn her out in years instead of decades, if staying meant watching Damon suffer as she deteriorated, then maybe 6 months of captivity was worth it. If it meant answers, if it meant survival, if it meant not leaving him to mourn another mate taken too soon. I'm sorry, she thought, while looking at him sleeping peacefully, unaware of what she was planning. But I can't let you lose me the way you lost her. I won't do that to you. She began to pack, quietly, carefully, not surrender. Strategy. She'd go to them, get the answers, learn to control the consumption, and come back whole. That was the plan. She didn't account for one thing. Mate bonds worked both ways, and Damon woke the moment her intent solidified into decision. Don't. Damon's voice stopped Sarah at the window, pack half filled, ready to climb down and surrender herself to save him from grief. She turned slowly to find him sitting up in bed, amber eyes glowing with hurt and fury and absolute understanding. You felt it, she whispered, through the bond. Every thought, every intention, every misguided attempt to sacrifice yourself. He stood, crossing to her in 3 strides. Were you even going to say goodbye? Or were you just going to disappear and let me wake up to find my mate gone? I was going to leave a letter. A letter? Damon's voice rose. You were going to surrender yourself to torturers who've been trying to capture you for months, condemn yourself to 6 months of experimentation and agony, and you thought a letter would make that acceptable. If it keeps you from losing another mate. I'm not losing you. The shout made the windows rattle, then softer, broken. I'm not losing you. Not to them, not to fear, not to some misguided sacrifice, because you think your life matters less than my grief. I'm going to burn out anyway. Sarah's composure shattered. You heard her. Moon singers consume themselves, so I have maybe 5 years before this power destroys me from the inside. And I can't. Her voice broke. I can't watch you love me knowing you're going to lose me. Can't let you suffer through watching me deteriorate. Can't do that to you. So you'd rather leave me now? Damon grabbed her shoulders. Rather surrender to people who'll break you. Rather throw away whatever time we have left because you're afraid of the end. I'm trying to save you. I don't want to be saved. His voice was raw, desperate. I want you. For however long we get, 5 years or 50. I want you whole and free and here. Not broken in some syndicate facility because you thought protecting me from grief was more important than living. Sarah stared at him through tears. What if there's a way to stop the consumption? What if the book had answers? What if 6 months of captivity could give us decades instead of years? What if it's all lies? Damon's grip gentled. What if there is no consumption? What if she made it up to make you desperate enough to surrender? The syndicate manipulates Sarah. It's what they do. And you almost fell for it. But what if she was telling the truth? Then we find another way. His voice was absolute. We research. We search for other Moonsinger descendants. We experiment carefully, safely, together. But we don't hand you to people who see you as a resource to be exploited. He pulled her close. I've lived 2 centuries. I've lost everyone I ever loved. And I'm telling you, I'd rather have 5 real years with you than 500, knowing I let you sacrifice yourself to save me from pain I'm strong enough to bear. I'm so scared, Sarah whispered against his chest. I know. So am I. Damon held her tighter. But we face it together. No sacrifices, no martyrdom. Just us, fighting for every moment we get. Agreed? Sarah pulled back to look at him, seeing the absolute certainty in his eyes mixed with the vulnerability of someone who'd already lost too much. Agreed, she said finally. Together. Always. They spent the next 3 months hunting for answers. Not through surrender, through research. Elder Thorn connected them with wolves who remembered the old stories, who'd heard whispers of Moonsingers, who'd lived full lives, who knew the syndicate's claims for the lies they were. The truth emerged slowly. Moonsingers didn't burn out. They evolved. The power that seemed consuming was actually transformation, becoming something more, something ancient, something that transcended normal shifter limitations. But the process was terrifying, required trust, required a mate bond strong enough to anchor them through the change. The syndicate hadn't lied about everything, just twisted truth into weapon. When Sarah's transformation began, when silver light started bleeding from her eyes and skin more frequently, when she could see truth in everything and everyone, Damon was there, holding her, anchoring her, reminding her who she was as power tried to remake her into something vast and inhuman. Stay with me, he whispered during the worst of it. Stay, Sarah. Stay mine. Don't let it take you where I can't follow. And she did, and because the mate bond was stronger than transformation, because love was stronger than evolution, because together they were something even ancient power couldn't destroy. A year after her awakening, Sarah stood before the regional council, not as victim, not as experiment, but as Moonsinger ascended, transformed, more powerful than anyone in living memory, but still herself, still capable of choice, compassion, truth. The Eclipse Syndicate sent one final operative to attempt capture. Sarah looked at him with eyes that saw everything, every lie, every fear, every crime, and simply said, "Leave. Tell your masters that Moonsingers aren't resources to be harvested. We're balance to be respected. And if they come for me again, they'll face truth they can't survive." The operative fled. The syndicate never returned. Years later, when young wolves asked about the Moonsinger ascended, the elders would tell them the story. About the girl who was sold by her family. About the Alpha King who refused to look away. About the choice that changed everything. Some details got embellished. Some got simplified. But the core truth remained. She was sold out and left for dead. The Alpha King never looked away. And together, they proved that the greatest power wasn't strength or dominance or authority. It was choosing each other, every day, through fear and transformation and impossible odds. Sarah had been thrown away like garbage. She'd become irreplaceable, and the territories, the entire shifter world, was better for it. The end. They tried to erase her. They only made her stronger. She was sold for silence. She came back as truth incarnate, and nothing was ever the same. If you loved Sarah and Damon's story, smash that like button and let me know. Your support decides what story I tell next. Subscribe for more fantasy romance that rewrites the rules.